She stopped to help a stranger. What she discovered about the hidden billionaire was life-changing. Clara's headlights cut through the dense, pouring rain as she drove home from the diner. The car's radio played a familiar tune, but her mind was already on Ethan, waiting for her with his big, blue eyes full of excitement. Just as she turned the corner, she spotted him, a frail old man struggling at the roadside, soaked to the bone and clearly distressed. A warmth spread through her chest, battling with the exhaustion pulling at her limbs. She should keep going. But instead, she pulled over. "Hey, need a hand?" Clara called as she hopped out of her car, the cold drops of rain splattering against her skin. The man looked up, his hands shaking, eyes darting with uncertainty. "I can help you get somewhere safe." The old man offered a weak smile, revealing a mouth full of missing teeth. "You're too kind, Ma." As she helped him to her car, her heart ached at his vulnerability. They chatted briefly, and she learned his name was Harold. Despite his tattered clothing, there was something regal in the way he spoke, a sharp wit that contrasted with his frail frame. The rain plastered her hair to her forehead, but she hardly noticed. She was entranced by the stories he told, tales of lost fortunes and family feuds that made him laugh and sigh in equal measure. "Poverty or wealth, it's all about the heart," he said, his eyes sparkling with untold stories. Clara felt the words resonate deep within her. This was a man who had once known abundance but had been left alone to face the shadows. Her own struggles flooded her mind. Long hours at the diner, the dreams she pushed down to provide for Ethan. Before she knew it, they were deep in conversation under the flickering streetlight, the storm swirling around them, creating an almost surreal bubble of warmth. She shared her own story of sacrifice and aspiration, and he listened with rapt attention. There was a connection between them, a raw strand of empathy that cut through the rain-soaked night. Suddenly, the air grew tense. A sleek black limousine pulled up nearby, and voices seeped out, harsh and demanding. A woman stepped out, her designer heels clicking against the pavement. "Harold. Get in this instant. You're embarrassing yourself." She dismissed Clara with a sneer that made Clara's chest tighten. "Don't you dare lecture me about embarrassment," Harold snapped back, defiance glinting in his eyes. "I'm talking to a friend." It took a moment for the news to break through Clara's shock. He was more than just a kind old man, he was someone who could change her life. As realization dawned on her, another wave of fear crashed over her. Wealthy men like him often hid behind layers of privilege. "I don't want to hold you back." "I understand," she began to stammer, but before she could finish, Harold spoke. "Sometimes, standing up can change the tides," he murmured, his gaze steady on hers. "You've got more courage than you think. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In that pivotal moment, Clara decided. She couldn't just walk away. The thought of abandoning this newfound bond gripped her heart. Thus, she stood rooted, proclaiming, "Harold, you have your own story to tell. Don't let them silence you." As the storm raged on and the crowd around began to whisper, Clara felt the stirrings of genuine change crackling in the air. But as she turned to make eye contact with Ethan, who had awakened and peered out the car window, she realized the weight of her brave choice, that somehow, she had transitioned into a fight that could threaten everything she held dear. Both hope and terror washed over her. What would become of her friendship with Harold? Would it be worth the battle she was now facing? The uncertain tide of the future was rising, and Clara had no inkling of the profound impact her decision would have, not just on her life but on her community's very fabric. Harold's defiance hung in the air like the thick, swirling fog of the storm. The woman in the designer heels took a step back, clearly taken aback by his unexpected courage. Clara could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her, a mix of tension and anticipation. With a deep breath, she stepped closer, determined not to let the chance for connection slip away. "Let him speak," Clara said, her voice shaking slightly but resolute. The words were out before she could think them through. She glanced at Harold, who was staring at her with a mix of surprise and pride. The woman scoffed, hands on her hips. "And who are you to get involved in this?" Her tone dripped with condescension. Clara could feel the weight of judgment on her shoulders. But there was no turning back now. "I'm someone who believes everyone deserves to be heard," Clara shot back, feeling the fire in her chest grow. "Everyone has a story, and sometimes it's the stories from the heart that matter the most." "Isn't that right, Harold?" "Yes," Harold said, his voice stronger now. "Stories are where we find connection." He was holding his head slightly higher, perhaps emboldened by Clara's support. The crowd had begun to draw closer, murmurs buzzing in the air, unsure of what to think. Clara's heart raced, aware they were all watching, eager, curious, maybe even inspired. It was as if the storm had rekindled something in Harold, and Clara felt it too, a flame of tenacity flickering to life. "Listen," Clara started, urgency intensifying her tone. "Harold may not wear a suit or drive a fancy car, but that doesn't mean he doesn't matter." The woman rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "This is ridiculous. He's lost everything. Why waste time trying to help someone like him?" Clara stepped forward, driven by a mixture of emotion and compassion. "Because he is still here. He still has a voice, a heart, and the wisdom of experience. You don't get to dismiss him just because he doesn't fit your idea of success." The words tumbled from her lips, raw and bold. Harold smiled subtly at Clara, his appreciation shining through the hardship etched on his face. Clara felt a rush of adrenaline from the moment. This was her chance to make a difference, and she wasn't about to let fear silence her. "Who are you?" demanded the woman, irritation piercing her voice. "Why do you care?" "Because I know what it's like to feel invisible," Clara replied, her voice catching as she thought of her own struggles, the long hours, the sacrifices, the love she poured into Ethan's future. "And I refuse to let someone else be sidelined just because they're not wealthy." The crowd seemed to hold its breath, the energy shifting, and Clara could feel the tides beginning to turn. She glanced at the onlookers, faces ranging from sympathy to fury. Even in their expressions, she could see the shadows of struggle, the threads of connection that bound them all in a shared experience. "Maybe all of us deserve a chance," Clara continued, her heart pounding fiercely in her chest. "Not just those who fit a mold. What makes a life worthwhile isn't the money but the love we share and the stories we tell." A silence fell over the crowd, tension hanging heavy. Harold's eyes sparkled with gratitude. Clara felt a swell of unexpected courage rising within her, the kind she thought had long been buried. Just as she began to believe that her words might have actually made an impact, the woman's expression shifted from disdain to something softer, a flicker of recognition. Maybe you're right," she finally said, though her voice was barely a whisper. The moment was electric, and Clara could hardly breathe. But before she could respond, a loud clap of thunder rumbled in the distance, reminding everyone of the storm swirling around them. "Stay," Harold urged, his voice firm yet inviting. "We have more to share, to learn from one another." Suddenly, Clara knew that this was just the beginning. She had ignited something within herself, something that transcended fear and doubt. But what lay ahead? Would the crowd embrace this moment of unity, or would they retreat back into their protective bubbles? As the rain continued to fall, Clara felt a rush of hope surge through her, a flicker of light in dark times. But the question remained, as she took a deep breath, how far was she willing to go to protect the bond she had created, not just for Harold but for her own future and the future she dreamed of for Ethan? As the rain fell steadily, an unexpected silence settled over the crowd. Clara could feel each heartbeat reverberate in her chest as she held Harold's gaze. His eyes were bright, reflecting a glimmer of hope that she desperately wanted to protect. She had taken a stand, but the real challenge was still to come. Stay, Harold repeated, his voice gathering strength. All of you. We need each other more than you realize. Some faces in the crowd remained skeptical, but others shifted, curiosity pushing them forward. The rumbling thunder echoed in the distance, a reminder that just like storms, lives could change in an instant. Clara could see a woman in the back wiping tears from her eyes. She sensed the tide of empathy rising as more people moved closer. Tell us your story, Harold, Clara encouraged, her heart racing. You have so much to share. We want to listen. Harold seemed to exhale, his shoulders relaxing at her words. My story, it's not pretty. It's filled with mistakes and lost dreams. But in his voice, Clara heard the thread of resilience. The crowd shifted, faces moving from judgment to connection. I used to think money mattered most. I chased it, lost everything chasing the dream, Harold began, his voice steady yet tinged with sadness. But what I found along the way was deeper than any dollar sign. I discovered hope in unexpected places like right here, right now. He pointed to the person next to him, an older man who had been watching with interest. That man? He offered me a warm meal when I had nowhere to sleep. This community, it's filled with stories just like mine. Real people with real struggles. It was a simple statement, but it landed hard in the hearts of the listeners. Clara could see nods of understanding ripple through the crowd. Recognition sparked in their faces, a realization that they weren't defined by their possessions or their failures. Sometimes, we ignore one another, Harold continued, his voice growing in warmth. We think we're alone. But when we take a moment to connect, to support one another, that's when true change happens. Tears streamed down the woman's face in the back, and Clara felt her own eyes prick with emotion. The onlookers' murmurs turned into quiet words of encouragement. Keep going, someone whispered. We're with you. Clara turned to Harold, feeling an electric connection forming among them all. You're showing us that it's okay to be vulnerable, she added, her voice gaining strength. It's okay to ask for help. That's the beauty of human connection, he replied, his smile lighting up the space around them, driving away the shadows. We are stronger when we support one another. I lost everything, but I've gained something too, a family made from kindness. The crowd was starting to embrace this idea, stepping away from their reservations. Clara could feel the shift. It wasn't just about Harold's story anymore, it was about all of them, their collective strength unveiled in the pouring rain. As hope filled the air, the designer heels woman hesitated, then spoke softly. I've been so blind to what truly matters. Can we really help each other? More thunder rolled overhead, but it was drowned out by a chorus of affirmations echoing yes, yes, we can. Clara's heart raced again, brimming with a newfound determination. This was just the beginning, and as she looked around at the faces, she knew they had opened the door to something far greater than herself or Harold. But as they stood there, united, Clara felt a sudden pang of uncertainty surge within her. Was this kindness enough to heal the wounded hearts gathered here? Would it be enough to protect the delicate bond they were building? As the storm raged on above them and the crowd lent their ears, she couldn't shake a feeling that whispered in her heart what other truths were about to be uncovered from these people. Clara took a deep breath, ready for whatever was to come next, but she wondered, what secrets lay hidden in the stories waiting to be shared. As the rain continued to fall, its rhythm blending with the heartbeats of the crowd, Clara felt the air thick with anticipation. There was a compelling energy brewing, and each person stood at the edge of a revelation. She scanned the faces around her, searching for the next voice to break the silence. It was then that a young woman stepped forward, her hands trembling at her sides. I've always been scared to share, to open up about what I've been through, she began, her voice barely slicing through the storm. But maybe it's time. The crowd leaned in, her hesitation hanging like fragile glass. With a deep breath, she continued, a year ago, I lost my job and thought my life was over. I was drowning in debt, and I didn't know where to turn. But one day, I found an envelope on my car, a letter with cash and a note that said, "You are not alone." Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Clara felt a rush of awe. Hope could come from anywhere, she realized. She could almost feel the warmth of that stranger's kindness washing over her, connecting them all. I never found out who left it, but that small act changed everything for me, the woman continued, her eyes glistening. It was like a hand reaching out in the dark. Harold stepped closer, encouragement shining in his eyes. See? That's the beauty of what we're starting to build here. When we share our moments of struggle, we give others permission to do the same. The young woman nodded slowly, gaining confidence. I put everything I had into rebuilding my life. I'm working with a community center now, helping others find jobs. Clara felt tears sting her eyes. The bravery in that young woman's heart was contagious. One by one, more voices began to emerge. An older man spoke about the time he felt utterly defeated after losing his wife. I thought I'd never smile again. But a friend brought me lunch and started talking. Eventually, I realized I needed to reach out, to keep living. Yes, another person shouted, fist pumping in the air. Hearing you say that just reminds me I haven't spoken to my family in years. They might not know how much I need them. As the rain poured down, each story brought the group closer. The collective atmosphere pulsed with connection, shaping something extraordinary among them. Clara could feel it, a web of support expanding like a tapestry, weaving their hidden wounds into a shared narrative of resilience. Yet, as laughter intertwined with tears and stories spun deeper into vulnerability, a shadow loomed in Clara's heart. Would the willingness to share these painful secrets lead to healing, or would they expose the cracks too wide to mend? Before she could ponder further, a quiet, strong voice broke through. An elderly woman, her frame fragile but her spirit fierce, stepped into the light, clutching an old scarf. I have something to say too, she said, her gaze steady. You see this scarf? It was my husband's. A reminder of better days, but also a story of survival I carry, one you wouldn't expect. Clara's breath caught. What story was hidden beneath the fabric of that legacy? The crowd hushed once more, anticipation swirling thick like the storm clouds above. What secrets lay behind this woman's smile? Would they dare to unleash the truth that could reshape their newfound bond? Clara held her breath, feeling the pulse of the moment quickening. The elderly woman took a step closer, her eyes locked onto the crowd with a fierce determination that belied her age. Clara could see the lines etched on her face, each one telling a story, and her heart ached with curiosity. This scarf, the woman continued, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns. It was given to me on the happiest day of my life, my wedding. But it's also woven with sorrow. You see, after I lost my husband to a terrible illness, this became my comfort. I wrapped myself in it when the nights felt too long, and the silence too loud. A ripple of quiet understanding rolled through the crowd. They were all too familiar with loss, pain, and the desperate search for solace. Clara felt a kinship stirring within her. This woman embodied the spirit of resilience that they were all yearning to ignite. When he fell ill, everything changed. The life we built together became a series of hospital visits, endless treatments, and nights filled with uncertainty, she said, her voice steady but faltering at the edges. But in those moments, there were glimmers of hope. Friends, family, strangers even, who came forward to help us. That's the thing, the woman pressed on, her face lighting up with a quiet flame. In our darkest hours, kindness often finds a way to shine through. My husband taught me to be grateful for those little sparks, and to pass that kindness on. After he passed, I decided to dedicate my life to helping others find those moments too. Clara's heart swelled. The woman wasn't just sharing a story, she was opening a door to a way of life. The bravery hidden in vulnerability was powerful. It wasn't just about her struggles, it was about building a legacy of compassion. People often say it's a small world, but I believe it's the connections we make that shape it, the woman continued. I want you all to remember that your stories can ignite a fire in someone else. The pieces of your past may seem broken, but when shared, they can create a beautiful mosaic of human experience. The crowd hung on to her every word. Clara felt tears welling up again, but this time they were tears of inspiration. The heaviness of the rain felt lighter as if the woman's words were washing away their doubts and fears. Someone near the front spoke up, voice trembling, "What if I have nothing good left to give?" The woman smiled softly, "That's where you're wrong. Your presence, your honesty, that's the most precious gift you have. Sharing your struggles is not weakness, it's an invitation for others to join you in healing." A murmur of agreement swept through the group, and Clara sensed a shift in the atmosphere, a burgeoning courage that replaced despair. Could it be that in sharing their pain, they would illuminate a shared path forward? As the crowd began to respond with murmurs of gratitude and stories of their own, a new voice emerged to offer another angle, a young man with a gravelly tone, who seemed desperate to join in but held back. "Was there ever a moment, after losing someone you love, when you thought about giving up?" he called out, his eyes raw. The elderly woman's gaze softened, realizing the depth of his question. "Oh, darling, many moments." She drew the scarf tighter around her shoulders, as if summoning strength from its fibers. "But every time I felt like giving in to my sorrow, I remembered the love we built. That's what pulled me back. The love, the kindness, it's always worth fighting for." Clara's heart beat faster, she sensed something pivotal was about to happen. The crowd leaned in, waiting for the next revelation. What new strength would emerge from this shared vulnerability? Would they forge a bond that would carry them through the darkest of nights? Emboldened by the woman's words, Clara felt the urgency rising within her. It was time for her voice to join the chorus, to share her story. She took a slow breath, heart racing. What would she say? How could her struggle further illuminate their path? Clara felt the weight of vulnerability pressing down on her. Would she dare to step forward? Would her truth bring them closer, or fracture the bond they had started to form? Clara's hands trembled at her sides. The weight of the crowd's attention felt like both a gift and a burden. She could feel their eyes on her, each one hoping for something meaningful. The warmth radiating from the elderly woman, who had sparked this moment, filled her with courage, but what could she possibly say that would matter? She looked down at the ground, her heart drumming in her chest. Memories flooded her mind like rushing waters of laughter shared, arguments had, and a life that felt so rich until it unraveled. The loss of her own brother came rushing back, and she could still hear the sound of his laughter playing like a cherished song in her heart. What did I do when I lost him? She thought. And then, she realized, she had retreated into the shadows of her own pain. The words caught in her throat, and she cleared it, forcing herself to speak. "I lost my brother 2 years ago. He was my best friend, you know. It feels like a lifetime ago, but also just yesterday. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to break down, to give up. It felt unbearable." The woman nodded, her expression encouraging, as if Clara's words mattered more than she could know. "But then, like you said," Clara pressed on, slowly regaining her voice, "I remembered our adventures, the way he used to lift me out of my worries. We used to go hiking together, and he'd always challenge me to climb higher, laugh louder, dream bigger." After he passed, she paused, tears brimming in her eyes. "I didn't think I had the strength left to keep climbing." A soft cry of sympathy echoed from someone in the crowd, and Clara looked up, seeing the empathy in their faces. She took a deep breath, feeling a strange comfort in their attention. "Then, I found myself drawn back to those places we loved. I started hiking again, not to escape my sadness, but to honor him. Each step felt like a conversation with him, and I realized the world was still here, vibrant and full of life, waiting for me to reconnect. Every moment spent on those trails reminded me of all he gave me, and it reignited something inside." The elderly woman's face lit up with understanding. "That's the truth of it, isn't it? The connections we make even after loss can guide us toward healing. It's not just about the scars they leave, it's also about the love that remains." "Yes," Clara exclaimed, emboldened. "And that's why I'm here right now, sharing my story with all of you. Because somehow, sharing his light, even in my grief, has sparked a fire in me. I want to remind all of you that your stories matter too. That pain can be a bridge to healing, not just a burden." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, heads nodding, a sense of community forming. Clara felt her heart race again, not out of fear, but out of hope. Could this shared moment lead to something greater? Then, a voice sliced through the air, capturing everyone's attention. "But what now, after sharing? How do we move on from here? What if it's too late to change anything?" Clara met the gaze of another face in the crowd, a young woman who looked both scared and searching. It was a question drenched in uncertainty, almost daring Clara to dig deeper. Clara felt another wave of urgency wash over her. Maybe it's never too late. Maybe the stories of our past, even the darkest chapters, can light the way forward. We can rewrite our narratives, together. But we need each other to do that. As the crowd began to discuss, sharing murmurs of consensus, Clara felt a shift, a low hum of budding connection, like a heartbeat thrumming in time with her own. What deeper secrets would emerge from this shared vulnerability? What stories were yet to unfold? With that thought burning bright in her mind, she wondered if they were on the edge of something transformative, even life-changing. Clara took a moment to soak in the energy around her. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a symphony of shared fears and hopes. Faces turned toward one another, and she could see connections forming. The young woman who had asked the burning question leaned toward her neighbor, whispering something that made them both nod in understanding. "Look," Clara said, her voice steady now, as if the crowd had taken her hand and helped her rise. "We've all been through something that changed us. Listening to each other is a step toward healing. Let's share those stories, those moments that shaped who we are today." A tall man with a weathered face stepped forward. "I lost my wife last year," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I didn't know how to keep living without her. Each day felt like trudging through mud. But I started going through her old things, photos, letters. I found a box filled with the dreams she had for us. It made me realize that I couldn't let our dreams die too." Clara felt a wave wash over her as he spoke. The room felt smaller, like a cozy gathering among friends. Others began to share their stories, each sentence a thread weaving them tighter together. A woman spoke about her struggle with depression after losing a child. Another talked about the guilt of not being able to save a friend. Each word carried weight, and with each confession, Clara noticed a lightness creeping into their midst, like the sun peeking through the clouds. "That's it," Clara urged, her excitement rising. "Our pain has a place in this circle, but it doesn't have to define us. We bond over what we share, and from that connection, new beginnings can sprout." The elderly woman from before clapped her hands gently, drawing everyone's attention again. "Sharing our burdens lifts them. We perhaps can turn that pain into purpose, but we must be brave enough to take each other's hands." The man who had spoken earlier nodded in agreement. "Then let us carve a path out of this pain together. Let us meet again, share our journeys, and support one another in healing. What if this outside becomes a living journal for all of us?" The crowd erupted in murmurs of approval, some even clapping. Clara's heart soared. An idea was blooming in her mind. This could be more than an ordinary gathering. This could be a community, a tribe formed not from blood but from shared scars and newfound hope. As they began to exchange contacts, promises of future meetings flickering into existence, Clara sensed the tides were turning. She was no longer just a woman recounting sorrow. She was a catalyst. One small story had sparked a connectiveness that could lead to healing beyond her own. Just then, the young woman who had posed the earlier question approached Clara again. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of emotions. "I didn't think I could feel this alive again. How do you maintain that spark?" Clara paused, her heart hammering in her chest. "I guess I choose to remember the love, to keep moving forward. It's about honoring what was while also stepping into what could be." Before the young woman could respond, a shout interrupted them from the far end of the crowd. "Guys, wait! Who's organizing this? A man with tousled hair, looking newly energized, stepped forward, a grin plastered on his face. What if we turn this into a regular event? We can gather, share, maybe even inspire others beyond this crowd. The idea sparked through the group, an electrical jolt of enthusiasm that swept across their faces. Clara felt her breath catch. Was this what she had yearned for, a chance to build something bigger than herself, something that could impact lives beyond her own? As the group began brainstorming ideas, Clara's mind raced. She felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to dive into the unknown. What kind of community could they create together? What realities could they shift? And just when she thought it couldn't get more exhilarating, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She reached for it, and her heart skipped a beat when she saw the name on the screen. Riley, it read, her brother's best friend, someone she hadn't spoken to since the funeral. Her breath hitched. What did he want? Did he sense this change in her? Curiosity mingled with anxiety. What was she on the verge of rediscovering? Clara's heart raced as she stared at the screen, the world around her fading into a blur. Memories of Riley flooded her mind, his laughter ringing in her ears, the way he had stepped into her life during one of its darkest moments. They had shared quiet moments filled with broken dreams and raw honesty after her brother's passing. But in the chaos and grief, they had drifted apart. Seeing his name brought a strange mix of comfort and fear. She hesitated, her thumb over the screen, unsure whether to respond. What could he want? Time had passed, probably filled with the distance that left both of them aching. But then, she thought of everything happening around her, the way the crowd found solace in shared stories. Could Riley also share in this awakening? With a deep breath, she tapped the screen. Hey Riley. It's been a while. What's up? The seconds felt like hours, and just as the suspense was about to crush her spirits, her phone buzzed, lighting up again. Can we talk? It's important. Clara's stomach flipped. Was there trouble? Was he all right? She glanced up at the gathering, where voices ebbed and flowed like a gentle wave. They were building something beautiful together. But here, within her, the uncertainty swirled like a storm. Sure, she typed back. Where do you want to meet? Need to talk face to face. I can come to you. Give me some time. She nodded to herself, the decision made. Okay. I'll be here. As she slipped her phone back into her pocket, a wave of excitement washed over her. The meeting with Riley could become part of her story. Maybe he had gone through his own transformation. She barely had a moment to contemplate that thought when someone tapped her shoulder. It was the young woman again, her expression bright and hopeful. So, what's next? After this? Clara smiled, recalling the energy that had surged through the crowd moments ago. We'll create a plan. A space for ongoing conversations. A community. That's amazing. And what if we go bigger? She suggested, her eyes sparkling with possibilities. What if we get a venue? Make it an open forum? We can bring in speakers, maybe some local artists. Clara's heart swelled with the excitement and the challenge. Yes. We'll gather our stories and let them inspire others. We'll make it real. The crowd began buzzing again, ideas bouncing back and forth like brightly colored balls of energy. They could create a safe haven, a warm space brimming with empathy and understanding. The weight of loneliness began to lift, replaced by the buoyancy of purpose, but just then, as Clara felt the flicker of hope reigniting, her heart jumped when she saw Riley's tall figure approaching, framed against the dusk. He had always been a beacon in her memories, and the sight of him in the flesh was both comforting and disorienting. The laughter and chatter around her faded into silence, as if the world had shifted focus solely to them. She could see a storm of emotions playing across his face. Anguish, determination, perhaps even hope. Clara, he called out, shaking off the lingering shadows of the past. She felt a bead of sweat trickle down her spine. His expression was serious, pulling her in. Riley, I didn't expect to see you here, she began, voice soft. He interrupted, his tone urgent. Listen, I really need to talk to you about something. It's about your brother and it's about this community you're building. You won't believe what I discovered. Her breath hitched again, each word resonating deep within her. What could Riley have possibly unearthed? And could it change everything she thought she knew? As the crowd resumed their discussions, Clara felt the weight of the moment press down on her. She was standing on the edge again, but the leap this time could lead to a revelation beyond her wildest dreams. Can we talk away from here? She asked, urgency filling her voice. He nodded, and together they stepped away from the gathering, the excitement of the group fading behind them, and in the stillness that followed, a question burned in Clara's mind, one that could change everything. What truth was waiting to unfold? Riley led Clara away from the crowd, their footsteps muffled on the soft grass. She could hear the hum of conversation still alive behind them, but here, in this space between them, it was just silence, a palpable silence thick with anticipation. As they reached a secluded corner, surrounded by trees swaying gently in the evening breeze, Clara turned to him, searching his eyes for answers. What is it, Riley? What did you find? Her voice came out louder than she intended, laden with urgency. He took a deep breath, and she could see him grappling with his own thoughts. I didn't just come here for the community. It's about your brother. His voice trembled slightly, and suddenly her heart raced for a different reason. The memories of her brother, full of laughter and pain, came rushing back. She felt overwhelmed. What do you mean? She pressed, forcing herself to steady her breathing. What about him? Riley ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she remembered from their childhood, an instinctual move when he was anxious. I was going through some old files. I stumbled upon something. There were notes about your brother's last days. Clara's stomach dropped. She had been desperate to unearth the truth surrounding his death, to understand why he had drifted so far away from the vibrant life he once had. What did they say? She whispered, dread mixing with a flicker of hope. He wasn't just struggling with personal issues, Clara. There were changes in his work. I think he might have been involved in something much bigger than we realized. Something dangerous. And he tried to protect you from it. She felt a shudder ripple through her body. Her brother, her amazing brother who could light up a room, had been caught in a web she hadn't even known existed. Are you sure? Can we trust this information? I am sure. I dug deep. I think he was trying to expose something, possibly corruption within his company, Riley said, his voice sharper now, driven by the urgency in his heart. And I think it's connected to this community idea you're building. If we want to make a difference, to heal, we need to confront this. Clara's head spun. Her brother was a part of something so much larger, and she had been naive in believing that he had been battling only his accessible demons. The weight of that realization threatened to crush her. But, Riley, how do we even begin to tackle this? She felt overwhelmed, the enormity of what he was saying closing in on her. What if it puts us in danger? Then we face it together, he said, that familiar determination sparking in his eyes. You don't have to carry this alone. This community can be a force for change. We could gather evidence, talk to people. Riley, what if people don't believe us? Her voice broke slightly, fear gnawing at her. What if they come after us? He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, grounding her. If we've learned anything from today, it's that together, we can break the silence. Let us build this community into something bigger than ourselves. Let us give people hope, a chance to share their stories too. With that, Clara's heart began to thrum with possibility and terror. They could shed light on the hidden shadows her brother had been trying to unveil. But even in that flicker of excitement, doubt coiled like a snake around her. Riley, if this is true, if we're right, then it means she struggled to finish her thought, a mix of hope and dread filling her chest. It means everything, he urged. But first, we need to know what we're up against. We need to dig deeper. In that moment, Clara knew they were standing at the precipice of something monumental. Yet, with the promise of their unity came the weight of uncertainties. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, her voice a whisper. "And are you?" He shot back, a fierce determination glinting in his eyes. The world seemed to hold its breath as they stared at each other, a silent understanding passing between them, forming the new bond of their shared mission. This journey could shatter her, or it could reshape everything they believed in. With her heartbeat echoing in her ears, Clara realized, the real challenge was just beginning. And as they stood there contemplating the monumental shift in their lives, the question lingered in the air: were they prepared to unearth the dark truths hidden beneath the surface? Clara stood in the dim light, heart racing as she absorbed the weight of Riley's revelations. The air around them felt electric, filled with both possibility and dread. Everything was about to change. Harriet had told her stories, made her feel less alone, but now it was time to translate that understanding into action. There was something tangible within her that stirred, a courage bubbling forward as her brother's memory pushed her onward. "We're ready," Clara declared, her voice stronger than she felt. "We've faced darkness before. We can do this." Riley met her gaze, his grin infectious. "Together, right? If we can breathe life into this community, we can challenge whatever's lurking in the shadows. We won't stand idle while others suffer in silence." That determination resonated deep within her. Clara couldn't ignore the responsibility beckoning her. Just moments ago, she had stood among those who broke free from their own shadows, embracing vulnerability and connection. Now, she was being called to advocate for change, to step into the light and confront the darkness head-on. Taking a deep breath, Clara looked back toward the crowd. The energy crackling around them ignited her resolve. "We've built a community based on openness and healing. Now we need to make that a fortress against the forces trying to push us down. We can't just share our pain, we must transform it into something powerful." As they approached the gathering, faces turned expectantly towards them. Clara felt a weight lift, the eyes of friends, those who had shared their own stories, encouraging her to speak her truth. She knew they could weather any storm together. "Everyone," she called, cutting through the murmurs. "We have a mission that stretches beyond ourselves now. Riley and I discovered something important. Our brother's fight was bigger than personal struggles. He was standing up against something dark and hidden in his world. We owe it to him to carry that fight forward." Eyes widened, and she saw the flicker of fear in some faces, but determination burned bright in others. Clara could feel it, the collective strength building right in front of her. "We have a chance to heal together, to shed light on the hidden shadows in our community. If we stand side by side, there's no silence too loud for us to break. Who's with us?" A roar of approval washed over her, and tears streamed down her cheeks, not from sadness, but from liberation. She had ignited a spark, an undeniable force that ignited fear into hope. "That's our power, all of us," Riley added, his voice steady and reassuring. "We can create a movement, a force for change. Together, we can seek the truth. The stories we tell don't just matter, they form the basis of our strength. Let us compel one another to rise, share our struggles, and face whatever is lurking in the dark." The crowd began to cheer, voices climbing in a crescendo of unified purpose. Clara felt the weight of the past and the darkness lifted. This was not just about exposing hidden truths, it was about weaving together an intricate tapestry of resilience. "I want every one of you to share your stories," Clara urged, enthusiasm spilling from her voice. "We'll create a safe space, where we empower one another. Reveal those hidden truths, shine light on those who have been silenced. Each of us has a role in this, together, we can spark extraordinary change." The cheers grew louder, thundering through the night. Hands raised high, each one eager to be counted among champions of hope and change. There was fire in the crowd, a pulse of energy that climbed through chakras, fueling Clara deeper into her mission. They began to talk more, brainstorming ways to expand their reach in the community and the resources they could summon to take a stand, to lend their voices not just for themselves, but for those who couldn't speak, days turned into weeks, and as Clara led their efforts, more and more voices joined them, swelling their numbers. They organized public meetings, inviting locals to share their own stories of struggle and resilience. The energy within. The community surged, each meeting a celebration of unearthing truths and creating bonds. Clara glanced at Riley across the room during one of their gatherings, a comforting anchor amid the storm. No longer were they individual shards of pain, they had transformed into a kaleidoscope of strength, filled with shared experiences guiding each member in healing and empowerment. Months later, as Clara stood before an audience larger than she could have ever imagined, she felt the weight of the moment lead her to the truth she had sought. The power wasn't just in unearthing hidden stories, but in recognizing the collective strength they had forged through their struggles. And as she lived in this moment, she realized how indelibly connected they all were, weaving through the fabric of vulnerability, courage, and hope. In this space, Clara not only had reclaimed her brother's legacy but had ensured it ignited transformation far beyond herself. As she wrapped up speaking, Clara looked at the crowd, her heart swelling with gratitude. Together, we can face anything. Let us continue to share, support, and empower one another. This community is stronger than the struggles we face, but only united can we overcome the shadows. Let us keep building this. With that, a wave of applause erupted, echoing through the gathering like a tidal wave of redoubled energy. Before the cheers faded, Clara knew this was just the beginning. It was merely the start of reclaiming their lives. They were no longer living in silence. They had found their voices and ignited a movement that would carry them forward, fighting for truth, healing, and each other. And as the crowd's chant resonated into the night, Clara thought warmly of Harold, her guiding star in the storm, who had shown her that in every heart was a story waiting to be told. This was the culmination of her journey. The message was clear: always stand for those who couldn't, and never forget that true empathy and connection formed the foundation of change. Now, more than ever, it was essential to spread this message far and wide, to cultivate warmth and light in every space they could reach. So remember, if you believe in the power of connection, in stories waiting to be told, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the light shining bright. Comment below your feelings about this incredible transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. This is the moment to show your support and ensure no one else has to stand alone. Don't wait not even one more second to share.